Hello, welcome to this week's edition of TRP News, the Rational Progressive, a production of the United States Rational Progressive Party. I'm James Andre, and thank you for joining me and taking the time to watch this video. Here's what's happening this week. The Treasury Department released figures this past Friday showing that the federal budget deficit through August to be around $530 billion, which is about 10% below the same period last year. This is mainly due to higher revenues as the United States economy has been recovering and GDP has been going up. So the deficit is the difference between the money that's been budgeted, that's been earmarked to be spent by the federal government, and the money that is actually spent. So that's the deficit, the difference between what we plan to spend and what we actually spend. So $530 billion through August. This is the lowest since the Great Recession, and it looks to go down even more next year. But while the deficit may be shrinking, the congressional budget battle is not getting any easier. The Republicans are trying to maintain the sequester from 2011, the sequester being that agreement from the so-called super committee where we had a government shutdown and no one could come to an agreement on a federal budget. So this super committee came up with the so-called Sequester or Budget Control Act of 2011 in order to essentially twist everybody's arm. So everyone had skin in the game. Domestic programs, all discretionary spending would be cut across the board by 10% if we couldn't come up with an agreement on what the federal budget should actually be. Well, as we all know now, the sequester actually went into effect. It was never supposed to go into effect, and it's been in effect since then. We have not been able to come up with any agreement to get rid of it or an alternate agreement, and so we are stuck with the sequester. Well, now the Republicans are not only two of their main tenets as far as the federal budget currently is defunding Planned Parenthood. Out of all the things that are going on in the United States, this is the Republican priority in Congress, is to make sure that a women's health clinic, one particular chain of health clinics, does not get funding. The other priority is yet again to repeal the Affordable Care Act. 40 or 50 votes in Congress isn't enough. That 40 or 50 useless votes, by the way, is not enough. They still are trying to make it part of the budget, basically defund or repeal the Affordable Care Act, take away millions and millions of people's insurance, get rid of the exchanges, all the stuff we went through, they're trying to undo. And this despite the fact that we are currently have fewer uninsured since the institution of Medicaid. So there's not been a bigger program since Medicaid to make sure that people are covered for their health care needs. But Republicans don't care about that, of course, we all know that, and so they are still passing these budgets which have their sort of ideological priorities and not fiscal priorities, because I say that because not only are they're willing to maintain the sequester, but their part, remember, both sides are supposed to have skin in the game. Both sides were supposed to lose when the sequester went into effect. But what they're trying to do is keep the sequester for all the things that the Dems put in, the liberal side of Congress put in, like social programs, investment, the Affordable Care Act, Planned Parenthood, and they're trying to get around the side they put in, military spending. Tax cuts, that kind of thing. So they're trying to keep the tax cuts, and they're trying to increase military spending without doing any tax increases and without increasing any spending on things like even infrastructure or the transportation bill. So basically what they're doing is just It's dishonest, it's destructive, it's divisive, it's bad for the country. So they want to have the sequester for us and not have the sequester for them, when in fact they're basically shirking their deal that they made in 2011, and they're trying to basically, there's no other way to put it, screw over the other side of the aisle. So that's what's going on right now. Again, September 30th, federal funding runs out for the federal government, and that means October 1st, we are looking at another government shutdown. And as you probably know by now, since we've been through this a couple times, it's not a instantaneous thing. Some agencies will shut down on the 1st, or be closed on the 1st. Others will continue to operate through various financial manipulations, and if the shutdown is gradual, if they come to an agreement in the first week, we might not notice much of an impact. If it goes on longer than that, then there will definitely be some noticeable effects. Now, the other aspect of this is, as I've told you before, is that we also are coming up on the debt ceiling again, November 14th. So this is another issue that has shut down the government in the past, or at least brought us to the brink of shutdown, and that is the debt ceiling, is the limit which the United States federal government can borrow money. So once that debt ceiling is hit, the authority for the federal government to borrow money to continue daily operations is rescinded. So there has to be an agreement, because as you know, the House of Representatives is responsible for all spending of the federal government. If they don't authorize it, the federal government can't spend it. And as you know, the federal government right now is ruled by a fractious group of Republicans, extreme wingnuts, Tea Party, and just basically ultra-pandering career conservatives who are trying to maintain their position from their own party's insurgency. So that's what's going on. We will see what happens. It's going to go down to the wire, people. So we'll be talking to you about this again next week. We'll let you know what happens. But listen, tell your congressman. I would tell you, if you are a conservative, if you do have a Republican representative, then get on the phone and get a hold of them and try to get them to make a deal and put their ideology aside and actually pass a bill from a strictly fiscal standpoint. But most of you probably live in the liberal areas, so it's not going to do much good. As I said before last week, what's going to happen is the government's going to be shut down, Republicans are going to look bad, the debt ceiling will the Democrats will end up twisting their arms in the court of public opinion and end up attaching the debt ceiling to that. So we are looking at somewhere between October and November 14th before this is all resolved. And in the past, it's gone into December, and so hopefully it doesn't get that bad. I don't think the Republicans have a taste for it, but we will see. And now I've been talking a lot about this in the past few weeks, the migrant situation, the global migrant issue, crisis, refugee crisis, with much of Europe trying to manage the politics of massive migration of people due to military conflicts, military and political insurgencies, as well as effects of climate change and just pure poverty and unstable governments. This past Saturday, reported 11,000 migrants entered Austria in one day alone on Saturday. So the finger pointing among the European countries has been increasing as the flow of people shows no sign of abating. I've told you a few weeks ago that this is the prime time for this sort of the peak of this kind of event, the mass movement of people. The summertime, the weather's best. A lot of these people try to cross the Mediterranean. They try to cross the Straits of Florida a lot of these bodies of water when the weather's good, and they can spend a couple of days on the water, hopefully, and not encounter a storm and end up drowning. Croatia, which has received 20,000 migrants since this past Wednesday, criticized Hungary for trying to prevent the entry of migrants. And Germany at one point appeared to be the most welcoming and accommodating of these European countries, but even they since have imposed more restrictions on their borders and even sent riot police to help control the flow of people. So Hungary is working to build a 109-mile-long barbed wire fence. I've told you about this in the past. It's nearing completion, and in fact, they've passed laws making it a crime to damage or cross the fence illegally. And in fact, they've at this point have arrested and convicted 17 people of that crime so far since construction began. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. This is a huge issue, and I'll repeat, the UN has called this the worst migrant crisis since World War II. A world war, people. That's the type of event that has previously moved this many people around the world, and we are talking about 50 to 60 million people who are displaced, who are on the move, who have nowhere to go, no resources, no place to call their own, and they are desperate. I showed you pictures before of people literally stuffing themselves in the engine compartment of cars, people being suffocated in the back of refrigeration trucks, and the unfortunate picture of the children washing up on the beaches in Turkey. This is a serious, serious problem, and here we had announced that 10,000 Syrians would be allowed in, and then this most recently, Secretary of State Kerry announced that that number would be increased to 85,000 or 185,000 next year. And I just want to say this again, that number is meaningless, folks, because 10,000, 100,000, 200,000, there's still 60 million people out there who need a place to go, who need resources, access to food and water and sanitation and security. And, you know, we've got people, you're talking about accepting 10,000 or 100,000 Syrians. We've got Central Americans and South Americans who are just as desperate every day trying to come to this country. And the bottom line is, you know, it's time to turn away from blowing things up, from bombing, from using military force to control land, and start using it to maintain security and peace for people, to develop prosperity. We talk about nation building and how tricky that is, and I think it's way past time for us to learn a lot more about it. How do we come, you know, we have to get past this idea of borders. We've got groups of people, Afghanistan is a prime example. We've got groups of people living within one border who have completely diametrically opposed ways of looking at the world and how they should live and the way they should be governed and what their belief systems are. So we have to find a way to accommodate this, number one, and we also have to come to a understanding, a global understanding, that violence, number one, violence and military action is not the answer to these situations, and it cannot be accepted anywhere. Number two, we have to, you know, as I said last week, we've got to start it. We've ignored borders to enforce our military objectives and our military key aspects of things around the world, like shipping lanes and to control nuclear weapons or chemical weapons. Well, it's time to ignore borders to maintain peace and the opportunity and economic opportunity for people wherever they are located geographically, or whatever arbitrary border there happens to be. Not only that, it's way past time to start getting rid of all these weapons and arms that we have allowed to be sold around the world, so that these warlords here and that warlord here and that terrorist here, what arms do you think these people are using? You know, ISIS is using Russian weapons and American weapons, and where are they getting the bullets? Someone is selling this stuff even today, folks, while we're fighting these people. Someone is selling them the material they need. They're selling oil. For example, ISIL's selling oil through Turkey and buying weapons through Turkey. So we have to stop the flow of armaments, and we have to start promoting security for people where they are, so that they aren't trying to make desperate trips across the globe to somewhere that may not even want them or have accommodations for them. So that's just my take on that. It's a serious issue, people, and we need the political will to, if we're going to invest, we have the largest military in the world, we're going to be investing the millions and billions of dollars. It costs $1 million, it costs multi-million dollars to drop one Sidewinder missile. How much would it, if we could invest the cost of one guided missile into one neighborhood, instead of blowing it up, invest that money in building it up, what would the impact be? It'd be a lot better than total destruction, total displacement of millions and millions of people. That is 100% guaranteed. Okay, and speaking of getting things done and political will, I want to talk a little bit about something I think that has been happening in the sort of political sphere in this country. And I think it's something that needs to be talked about more, and we need to look at more, especially for liberals and progressives who are trying to forward their agenda, trying to make a change in our governments, both federal and state and local. This is an important issue, I think, for us to consider as we go about trying to influence public opinion and influence the actions of our representatives. After the losses in 2000 and the electoral losses in 2000 and 2004, a lot of people were, including myself, felt like we had to do something, we had to sort of learn something from the right, from the Republicans, from the right wing, in terms of how to message our agenda, how to influence public opinion, and how to shape the conversation, the national conversation. We felt like we were being outdone by the right wing and basically flailing while they were just hammering us. And we adopted a lot of those tactics along the way. In my opinion, more and more the left has been adopting some of these tactics in terms of messaging, in terms of rhetoric, in terms of the way we talk about issues, and in terms of the way we talk about the other side. And this has been happening more and more and more. You see more and more people on the left adopting this kind of talk. And now, a lot of this, President Obama won election in 2008, and he wasn't really part of this growing consensus about how to talk, basically fighting fire with fire. He kind of did his own thing, so we didn't really see it a lot, and in fact, he caught a lot of criticism because he wouldn't adopt these tactics, he wouldn't combat, he wasn't combative enough with the right wing. In fact, they was too cool. That was the label he got. And people were actually critical because it's like, we've had enough. It's time to fight fire with fire. Let's give them a taste of their own medicine. And yes, and I was one of those people. I was frustrated, and I was like, here they are. They can just make up stuff, say whatever they want to say, and it's not even true, and they're affecting public opinion. They can say he's Kenyan, he's Muslim, the Affordable Care Act's going to have death panels. They can characterize anything any way they want, and people start to believe it. And of course, they have Fox News beating the drum up right along with them. Well, now after losses in 2014, and I've told you before, 37% of eligible voters came out and voted. This is just pathetic. It's really, really sad and pathetic. And, and this is another issue I just briefly, is this idea that my vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The election's rigged. This is just cynicism, and this is another unfortunate thing we've accepted from the right wing, is that we can't affect what happens in our government. This is just not true. It's a complete falsehood. Every day it is demonstrated that people's voices matter in government. The problem is we aren't speaking. We aren't making our voices and our opinion known. So it's easy for those who want to maintain power and maintain their own particular agenda to circumvent the will of the few people who are willing to speak up. So, and then we have those who represent as being a louder voice or a louder group of people. For example, defund Planned Parenthood. Well, most people don't agree with that. Or this Iran nuclear deal is a bad deal. Well, most people don't agree with that. Yet somehow we're led to believe that this is a significant group of people who feels that way. Well, not only, after 2004, after these losses, more and more people became frustrated. How do we motivate people? How do we get them on our side? How do we forward our agenda? How do we influence public opinion? And, more and more we've seen the left turn to the tactics of the right wing. It's exaggeration, it's lies, it's smears, and it's just downright falsehoods, downright deceiving the public in order to play on their emotions. And the word is pandering, basically pandering to get them excited, to get them to do what they want, what the politician wants. Send money, make a phone call. Look how many petitions are online these days. Sign your name to this, sign your name to that. Don't let them do this, don't let them do that. And literally 9 out of 10 of these petitions are absolutely useless. Okay, they're not going to do anything. Get money out of government, sign this petition. Well, the petition's meaningless without a specific piece of legislation, and what's happening is that, we're beginning to see the consequences of this kind of thinking. So we've increased the level of passion among the electorate, but we've decreased the level of thoughtfulness, how much people are actually considering what they're doing. And, essentially we've bred a segment of the electorate that is, they're automatons. We've become automatons, easily programmed by whomever presents the most exciting program or message. So, that's what I've said before in the past. Don't operate on how it feels. Operate on the facts. Don't operate on, I'm mad about this. Operate on what's going to be the best way forward. And this is what when I say being a rational progressive is you consider the facts, you consider your tenets and your beliefs. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute about what does it mean to be progressive. But you consider these things rationally, and then you consider what's the best course forward. So, what we've done is we've put ourselves on the slippery slope to an idiocracy or to George Orwell's 1984. So it's the adoption of this kind of sociopathic feedback loop where, everything now is about getting attention, right? Everything now is about getting those likes, getting those views, because that's become the most valuable currency these days. Can you get eyes on it? Can you get somebody to react to it? Can you get someone to click on it? Can you get someone to like it? Can you get someone to share it? And so this is what people are trying to do. And you look at the Republican primary, this is just in the epitome of what I'm talking about here, is who can be more outrageous, who can spread the most lies, who can get the biggest reaction. You've got, a dozen or more, 18 people, I think, fighting for attention, and so they're going to say whatever they can say. They're going to keep honing their message. You've got Fiorina just making up something about abortion, completely made up, and yet she still defends it as if it were fact, and it's completely false. And it doesn't matter because she got a reaction. She got a reaction from me. I was like, what? But it's not true, it's like if it's so outrageous and you haven't heard about it for weeks, except when someone opens their mouth, then it's just probably not true. Bernie Sanders, they put an attack ad out on us. They put an attack ad out on me calling me this. It's not true. It's just not true. There is no ad. There's one email to one person, a couple of reporters, and he characterized it his own way, but no one's seen the email. Ask yourself that. You've heard about this. Where's the email? Have you read it? No. So it's just more pandering, people, and we've got these people trying to get that currency, the likes, the views, the clicks, the shares. They're trying to get that currency, and they're doing whatever it takes to get you excited, get you to think with your emotions, to get you to react, to get you to pay attention to them. And the huge problem is of course, we end up governing not by what's best for the country or what's best for society, but by what gets the most likes, what gets the most views. And, a train wreck gets a lot of views, a wildfire gets a lot of views, but that's not good. That's not something that we want to see happen on a daily and regular basis. The more we adopt this kind of way of behaving and acting and talking about issues and talking about other people, whoever they are, and I am not a fan of George W. Bush by any means. I was telling this to someone the other day. By any means, I don't agree with him. I think his presidency was a disaster, let's put it that way. But you will never hear me calling him names. You'll never hear me insulting the man because there's no point to it. How does that help my agenda? And what we're doing when we adopt these smear tactics, these lies, exaggerations, is we're giving our public figures permission to continue to behave that way. It's Pavlov's dog. If you respond to it, if you keep posting all these freaking articles about Donald Trump, why would he behave any differently? He's the one getting the attention. And even if it's, in Hollywood they say there's no such thing as bad publicity. And trust me, that is like the number one tenet of politics these days. There's no such thing as bad publicity. As long as your Facebook feed is full of Donald Trump and his hairdo, then he's going to continue to do what he's doing. And so folks, jumping on, even if you're a Sanders supporter or Clinton supporter, jumping on each other, and I see this, more and more, Sanders people attacking Clinton people attacking Sanders people. Not only that, attacking each other. Now, it's one thing to point out, well, this email issue is a concern of mine. I don't like it. That's fine. Or Sanders exaggerated on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and I don't think that's good. I don't respect that. That's fine. It's another thing to say Hillary Clinton is a liar. She's a thief. She's been bought and sold. She's a corporate whore. I mean, this is kind of just a disgusting way of talking about anyone. You wouldn't talk about a family member that way. Don't talk about anyone that way. And as a matter of fact, let's talk about our agenda. Let's talk about progressive ideals. Let's talk about what needs to happen in this country. Let's keep the focus on where we're going, progress. Let's be rational. Let's be progressive. Let's move forward. Let's not adopt these right-wing tactics, and let's not put people down and muddy the waters and dirty our discourse, because that's not what we want from our government. That's not what we want from politics. As progressives, as liberals, we want more than that. That's why we're progressive. That's why we're liberal. As progressives, we feel that there can be more, and we should work towards it. That's one of the basic things behind being a progressive. So, what does it mean to be progressive? Well, liberals and progressive, first of all, I just want to clear this up. Liberals and progressives, we are not the same. I'm a progressive. I'm not a liberal. I get labeled all kinds of things, and as long as you don't call me late for dinner, I'm fine. But I'm a progressive, not a liberal. I am a rational progressive, not a radical progressive. So there's a difference there too. All progressives aren't the same. So the thing about being a progressive is that it's a philosophy. It's more a philosophy of government than a specific political ideology. So it's about, being a progressive is about what is the purpose of government. It's not specifically what government should do today or what government should do tomorrow. So basically, 4 good tenets of being a progressive is we believe in freedom, opportunity, responsibility, and cooperation. Freedom, opportunity, responsibility, and cooperation. So that's the ideology. This is not really specifically about government. This is about society and how we think people should live. So we believe the purpose of government is to advance the common good, to secure and protect our rights, and to help create a high quality of life and community well-being. So secure and protect our rights, a high quality of life, and a community well-being. That means that good for as many people as possible. So that is what government should be doing, keeping us safe, giving us opportunities to improve ourselves and our lives, and making sure that our communities are healthy and happy. Pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So it follows that many issues that are considered liberal issues are also progressive issues. So obviously, clean water is important to a happy and healthy community. Clean air, healthy and clean food. So there is a great deal of overlap when you're talking about these sorts of things. Reduction of waste, renewable energy. So there is a lot of overlap between these issues. The difference is that for most progressives, or particularly rational progressives, we tend to be a little bit technical. And as I said before, let's look at the facts, let's look at the objectives. So I was pointing out to someone else because they were saying, how this Clinton position is not progressive at all. She's for this and that. I'm like, you can be progressive and be for, being for one particular bit of legislation or agency directive is not make you not a progressive. It just means you don't agree with how they're getting there. With the goal, I hate to say the ends justify the means, they don't, but what is the objective? Now you can disagree about where we're going, like what's the best, if I want to go from here to New York City, what's the best route, or what's the best time of day to leave, or should I take the train, or should I drive, or should I fly? But the ultimate objective is to get to New York City. So we have to consider those things. How much is fuel going to cost? How long is it going to take me? When do I need to get back? What's the safest form of travel? These are all technical issues that should be worked out when you consider a thing, or when you look at something like the federal budget. What's going to be the best for society? And we know, just technically, we know that investment in things like infrastructure and transportation is good for society. We know this. We have experience now, 200 plus years of experience as a country, 250, and we've seen the effects and we know the impact of these things. So again, so that's what it means to be a progressive. This is about what is the purpose of government, what should it be trying to accomplish, and it's essentially, you can look at our Constitution at the preamble, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. And that is what it is all about. Being a progressive, how can we promote those things? Not strangle the government. The government is not the end. It's not something that is, a progressive can be for more government, a progressive can be for less government. A progressive can be for more taxes, or a progressive can be for less taxes. But all progressives want to see society benefit and the most people benefit in the best, most ways possible. So that's what it boils down to. It's not a political ideology, it's a social ideology, and it influences our politics. So let's keep those tenets in mind, folks. Be rational, be progressive, be liberal, but let's keep moving forward. That's ultimately what we all want to see for ourselves, for our society, for our states, for our country, and for the world. So thank you for tuning in. That's all I've got this week. I'm James Andre. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. Leave me a comment, or if you have any questions, you can catch us. Leave a comment in the comments below in the video on YouTube, or click subscribe here. We love subscribers. And or you can catch us on Facebook or Twitter, and we will be happy to talk to you there. So once again, this is TRP News, and I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week.